Good afternoon. Welcome to our Monday, August 17th board work session. We are going to go ahead and get this meeting started.
That was good. Oh, check. Hey, there it is. Okay. Well, welcome and good afternoon. Monday, August 17th, and we're going to have our board workshop today. The first part of our board workshop is we have it kind of compartmentalized into two sections today. So the first part is Wenatchee School District Board goal setting. So that'll be the first hour, which I've never done this before. So we'll see how long it takes. We'll take whatever time we need. And then the second part would be a board of directors bond engagement planning process. And that's more of us kind of walking through this tool, which looks like a lot, but there is only a little bit that it asks of us to do. So we'll do that secondarily. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the slide deck here. And the first slide is summer sharing. Please share one memorable highlight of your summer and one thing that you're looking forward to this school year. And while folks are thinking, I'll share to fill the gap. We had a big summer. We had my youngest daughter had twins, Oliver Douglas and Ellis Alexander, and they were born on July 8th. So that was our summer. And I think we're within 2 weeks of them coming home. So that'll be great. So we're excited about that. They're Oliver is over 5 pounds and Ellis is real close to being over 5 pounds. And they're eating really good. And that's the indicator is so they have to eat 75% from a bottle or from mom for 48 hours before they can be sent home. I'm learning. So this is great. So grandpa summer. One thing that I'm looking forward to this school year is getting to know my grandchildren. So that's great. The grandboys. But also from the school district perspective is looking forward to precisely right behind me is a bond trifold. So we're looking forward to the bond campaign, which kicks off officially tomorrow at our opening day. So I'm looking forward to that. And just looking forward to that conversation and helping our community obtain the information that they need to be informed to make a good choice on November 3rd. Do we want to move this way? Tucker, you want to take us?
Sure. First of all, sorry I'm late. I had a minor meltdown at the house that I was like one kid being left alone with a delivery coming. I was like, oh. No. Anyway, summer highlight. We took the kids to Italy and we hiked in the Dolomites. And I was really, really scared about how that was gonna go. And the kids were rock stars. And so it was a great trip, but also like the thing I was terrified, which is we would like full on bonk. We'd just be in the wilderness. The kids would be like, nope, we're staying here. And I'm like, we didn't bring tents. So anyway, that didn't happen. So turns out it was fears were unfounded and Italy was a good time. I am looking forward to the bond being done. Like I feel very strongly that this is the right course of action, but it's a big ask from the community. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we put our best foot forward. But I kind of want to know. I want to know what happens. So I'm looking forward to the backside of November so we know where we're at.
Okay, well, I'm not really sure if May counts as summer, but I mean, I got married this year, so that's pretty exciting. And then we moved house. So, I mean, that was also a really big one. I feel like that will last the rest of the year. There's so much stuff. But just, being different, because I think the bond is kind of a big theme for us right now. But I am looking forward to seeing some growth in math scores with our continued work and people. I mean, I think the teachers are really getting a routine down with that. And I think we'll start to see some of that going up, hopefully this year as the kids get more experience with the new learning styles and the data collection. So I'm looking forward to seeing those numbers.
Perfect. You would have loved, I went to the team leader trainings this morning for our PLC teams. So we had our elementary team started at 8 at the New Commons at the high school. And then our secondary team started at 10:30, and they're doing the work and they're getting ready for it. So you'd be happy. Awesome. Mark?
My highlight would be just spending time with family and friends, both camping and traveling. And this year I'm excited that both of my kids are going to the high school. So that's going to be a exciting change.
Is that, so that's one-stop shopping? One-stop dropping and one-stop shopping.
And one can drive, so it's hopefully
Ooh.
0 stops dropping.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Although she said she'll only drive him if he doesn't speak. So,
Oh.
but I'll still take it.
Oh.
It's
okay. Is that going to be, will that be hard for him?
yeah, it will be very hard, but it's only like 2 blocks, so hopefully we can figure it out.
You know,
Right. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Maria.
I am like Mark. This summer I got to spend the whole summer at home engaging with just my son and my husband. We actually had a uninterrupted summer, no vacations, very minimal family visits until toward the end of this month. So it was just nice to be home and not really do anything or plan for anything big. And so I felt as having an only child that quality time right before high school was very neat. And I'm kind of not ready for school to start. Got a week and a half. And personally looking forward to the school year is a more work-life balance. You know, I don't know what that looks like, but we'll figure that out as we go. And then again, just kind of taking it in. You know, I think I've been able to immerse myself with my kid in elementary school and middle school, and now for you know, what will it look like for the next 4 years? So yeah, I'm sure the high school will be seeing more of me.
Oh my gosh. It's wild to think that Noah's going into 9th grade. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's great. Well, thanks everybody for sharing. I appreciate that. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I have shared that with everybody, but Julie wants to be with us, but she is taking her daughter to college today at PLU and doing all those things and parent orientation and things. But as we move through this protocol that we're going to move through today on goal setting, there's a spot for three goals. And we have you partnered with another board member to do a goal, and then Julie and I will do a goal, but we'll have to do that once she returns home. So we'll still have the work in front of us and move through that process. So let me move this along. We have, you have the slide presentation in front of you, because as we get to the point where we start looking at goals, you're going to want to reference this document, and we won't have to go flip through slides. But this is based on our self-reflection board workshop that we did in May. And so we're going back in time and going back to that conversation. And I have some of that work summarized here so that we can reflect on that and remember. Also, if you want, you have your computers here. And so if you feel like you wanted to look at the standards, the WASDA standards, you're welcome to do that. They are linked in today's agenda. So that's in front of us. But first, we're going to take a few minutes and ground ourselves in the data. We're going to review our self-assessment highlights together. And then we're going to look at the themes from those highlights, which are broken down into 3 growth themes, perfect for the number of board members and teams that we have today. And then we're going to draft some goals, and we'll work in pairs, not trios, to do that work. And then there's some documents that we'll go through really quick that will help us kind of stress test what those goals look like. Then we will prioritize or narrow them down. I don't think we're going to spend a whole lot of time in the prioritization area unless your team comes up with more than one goal, and that might necessitate that. And then in the last few minutes, we'll finalize and adopt. And the timelines are not hard timelines. They're just kind of approximates, and we'll use the time that we need together to move through the process. Thanks for being brave and courageous and jumping into this with me. This is new uncharted territory, but we're going to have some fun. The next page are the self-assessment highlights. So as we ground ourselves in the data, I will let you look here at the foundational board strengths. And this is when I first looked at this is where I kind of wanted to go back to the standards. I was like, okay, which standard was 1 and 3? I don't have them memorized, but responsible school governance is 1. And then 3 is creating conditions district-wide for student and staff success. So we had some good gains there. And our conversations also led us through that we have a culture of mutual trust. We have a very high functioning board. And I think that helped the self-reflection process this year because we were able to plan for the future because we are a high functioning board. And then we also saw that our board strengths were also student-centered focus, and then that fiscal and public trust. So maintaining sound budget management, robust financial oversight policies, and positive public communications. Now, we're going to leave those alone for today and know that those are our strengths, and that is what we're going to carry forward as a team as we move forward. But we want to look at the targeted areas for growth. So I'll let you take a minute and read through those pieces and then maybe give a little bit of feedback on what, if you think these are accurately displayed from our self-reflection time, or if you think that they should be massaged in any way, shape, or form or clarified. So just take a minute to reflect there. Okay, whenever you're ready or feel like you want to come back to the conversation, please let me know your thoughts. What are you thinking? Does this capture our conversations back in May from what you remember, or do we need to massage anything?
I mean, for my part, I'd say that looks pretty good. I think that, our strategic plan, we're in year 5 of 5. So, we're ready for checking in. I've been on the board for 3 years now, and it seems like there's a fire every time. And we like knock on wood, like it kind of feels like we have the bond coming up, but a lot of things feel stable, and we don't have, we're going to have to make some budget reductions again this year, but not, I feel like, with the same urgency we have in the past. So being able to take a deep breath and look at our strategic focus, and then ideally putting some data behind that, what do our strategic planning, what does that look like, and how can we show success? And I think we haven't had a chance to take, Maria's called a lot for disaggregated data. We haven't really looked at data at all. We just haven't had that space. And so I think that those two will dovetail well together. And then, as we talk more about what the different board contributions we can have, what's our role in the different committees? How are we interacting with the community, and then building those systems of accountability into those actions, clarifying your roles, and then understanding within those roles what you should and shouldn't be doing. I think it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I think two big buckets that those kind of four things work within.
Awesome. Thank you. Other thoughts?
I think just dovetailing off of that, my takeaway on the data was what data and when, and how can it be consistently provided? Because I think we all see a lot of information at a board meeting, but providing context to where that came from or what we should be looking at and how we can help others understand what we're looking at, I think is really helpful. It's easy to see a snapshot and settle on one thing or one number, and that doesn't normally tell the whole picture for the district.
And Mark, I just want to have in front of me an email from Monday, May 18th that you sent me that said, I would like to see us set a goal to focus on getting/understanding growth and achievement data and develop a methodology for continually getting this data to draw connections. Well done. I was like, just had to make sure. Yes. So that was great. I hear you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the.
I fully agree. In regards to the long-term strategic focus, and I think it goes along with the targeted data flow. I think it flows perfectly into that last bullet point. For systems of accountability, I think obviously accountability for the district for us, but also I really like that because I think if we're transparent, not just within our school community, but also with the public, I think we could take this one a step further. Internal systems of accountability, a shared understanding across the district. But what about our accountability to our stakeholders? And in my head, right now I'm thinking, I don't even know if it's even possible, but like dashboards. I know you could go to OSPI report card, but what about something that we have on our website, and that way somebody moving into the community or can take a look and monitor or track that the performance. In regards to board contribution, I think we've done a lot of unintentional work the last several months. I mean, we just approved our norms or whatever that was last week. I'm not sure what we meant by board's own growth and individual member contributions. I think we do a pretty good job. So I'm not sure about that one. But I probably forgot. So.
Oh, that's great. And Maria, as you were talking, I remember one conversation that we had and was unpacking transparency. And I really liked it because when you get your 200 to 400 page board packet every 2 weeks, there's a lot of transparency in that packet, but there's a lot of areas that could be unpacked even more. And I remember one of you brought up like when we look at all of the expenditures, right? We just look at that long list of we pay this, we spend this. We could maybe unpacking some of that a little bit more, like what does the $48,000 bill to Capital One cover, right? You know what I mean? And doing some of those things. So there's definitely have heard some conversation from our team about how we can unpack transparency even more. So anyway, excited to see where we go with that. Caroline, any thoughts? Oh, all right. Fairly representative from what you remember. Good. Okay. Okay. The next page further kind of takes this into combining some of those target areas of growth into 3 core growth themes. And so this is for us to take a look at again and dive in. So again, I'll let you read through this area and then let me know if you feel like these themes are categorized okay, and where you'd want to maybe expand on those based on what we just shared. And then as you can see, what we're going for here is each one of these would then be a goal area that we would go after, as long as it feels comfortable that we go in this. And so let's make it ours, and let's dive in. We'll let the rest of our viewers know which slide we're on. Here we are, folks. Okay. One thing that I'm noticing, and I'm sure you are as well, is to get from 4 areas of growth to 3 core themes: combined accountability and data, strategic continuity becomes its own, and then board growth becomes its own. However, thinking about your comments, Maria, we could we could remove theme 3 and separate accountability and data and still have 3, if that was something that you as a board want to do or want to think about. This is your meeting, this is your show, these are your goals. So I want to entertain the possibilities of whatever we need to do.
I would say for board growth, again, like we've kind of been I've been feeling like we've been putting out fires for a while, and we haven't had a chance to say what does growth look like. I think as we talk about screen with the success, in my opinion, of the cell phone ban, and we talk about screen time, I know how are we using screens and educational technology in the classroom? How are we using AI? Those seem like discussions that are going to be bigger than just like an agenda item. And so for board growth, like if, do we do a retreat or we do a round table or some kind of discussion with the community? That seems like board growth seems like a good place to put some of that. How do we want to handle some of these bigger, not necessarily contentious, but like confusing topics that we can really like flesh out our ideas? And we are not allowed to talk to each other outside of this setting. So maybe that's more maybe that's a retreat, maybe that's just more workshops, but I think there's some things that I would love to at least noodle on with the group and get a better sense of how we want to go as we think about how we're growing as a board. So I kind of like leaving that as its own thing, because I think that we really we should be giving these hard topics the time that they're due. And I would love to also include community feedback into that process. And I don't necessarily know how that is best done. So leaving that as a board growth, I think is good. Accountability and data really feels like they work pretty well together. So I'm pretty okay leaving them together. I do think that it's going to be really hard to decide what kind of data we're looking at. There's so much data, and trying to track too much stuff, I think, gets messy. But if you narrow it down to too few things, you kind of lose some of the nuance that we're dealing with in education. And then strategic continuity, I think, especially in this year, as we look to extend the strategic plan, it's going to be really important for us to drill down on and how is this what we want to do going forward. So I like the themes as they stand personally.
Awesome. Thanks, Tucker. Go ahead, Mark.
I agree. And I think that also in that board growth area, a little bit, I was hoping that we can, as a team, decide what we think being a successful board member looks like. And I laugh because Martin had a list that he provided me after I was put on the board, which is, I think, very different than maybe how the rest of the board viewed what being on the board meant. So I do think I'd like to see some expectations like that I'm even setting for myself for how involved are we. It is challenging when you also work a day job and try to fit all this in, but I'd like to see us explore that and keep it open for all of these other things that can come up that we do want to maybe have some more strategic discussions on rather than just at a board meeting.
Yeah, no,
Well
I love this discussion because it definitely takes it from outside of this sentence. I think this is not just like the clarify board roles, not just for us, I guess, but also for our district community, our community at large. Um, and to Mark's point, it's like my experience. This is what close to 7 years, and my involvement with the board is different every year, right? It's based on what's happening outside of our role, right? Some years are real, I'm able to engage fully. Some years are a little bit more unsteady and exactly. Yes. Yes. No, just knowing that, like Martin didn't have, he was retired. Think we all work full-time jobs. And so, yeah, I think it could look different, but, you know, yeah, I don't know. We can put the expectations of a board member, given the external factors. I love the collective board development though. Those are always fun. Because I think we only get to do it if we all go to WASDA. That's the only time.
And to that point is, wouldn't it be great to go to WASDA with, we're packing goals and we have some ideas of things that we want to do. We can divide and conquer when it comes to the plethora of amazing presentations. And then we come back and we can discuss. So it's great. Anyway, Caroline, go ahead.
I guess just looking at this, I mean, I remember some of our conversations around the accountability part. I think we were really looking into the diversity, equity, inclusion portion of the vision statement. Whereas theme 2 is really focusing on the big 6, which is more academic data. So I think as long as we keep those two separate and don't try to make goals on like the same thing, it works. Because I feel like the accountability and data portion is more about the feel of the schools and how we're reaching every single kiddo. And then the strategic continuity is more of how are we actually moving them forward academically, if I'm reading that correctly. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well said. Thank you for your thoughts. Based on that, we will keep the themes kind of how they are. However, understanding that the sentence under them, under the theme topic, can grow and expand however we need them to. I'm going to go through the next few pages and then we'll come back to our goal setting. But let's, this is just This is just the things that could be involved in a goal setting when we jump into it. So 7 areas for every board goal or target. So we have a goal statement. We have that somehow it's tied to some sort of assessment finding, and it doesn't, that's not the biggest category, but was it, part of when we look at, I'm trying to think of the WASDA standards, was it standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We don't necessarily, that's not the biggest part of it, but link it to board actions, what the board itself will do differently. What is the evidence of progress? What concrete data reports or artifacts will prove the goal is progressing over time? What is our timeline? Is it just this year? Is it multi-year? Is it the next 5 years? When we look at the strategic plan, we're going to want to make sure we kind of look at that. Who's the owner or who's the lead? And then what is the cadence? How often will the board come back to that particular goal and address it? And maybe if that's in a board workshop or in a board meeting. So that's just a tool for us to look at once we take a look at the goals. And then there's a couple, these are not very detailed, but these are kind of some squishy goals that could help us get started in the goal setting process. So accountability and data, establish a reoccurring reporting rhythm with the superintendent, delivering targeted progress data on 2 or 3 priority metrics to ensure shared governance clarity. So that's just an idea of what a draft goal for number 1 would look like. Draft goal number 2, conduct a formal review of progress on the current strategic plan to next steps to extend and revise, protecting long-term district success. Then they have some actions down there that you can look at as well. And then the third one, board growth and contribution, define explicit board growth goals and clarify how each individual member's professional contribution directly support district priorities. So these are just examples. They do not have to be anything that we adopt or come up with, but it's something for you and your partner to discuss. And then finally, well, almost finally, filters to narrow and consider during goal setting. Now, to be fully transparent, as I was going through this process with the board, with the cabinet, this was something that I was like, man, does this convolute things too much? Does it get too detailed? And the cabinet was like, no, I think this is really something to consider, but don't have it be a barrier. Don't have these things be a barrier to the work that we're doing. Every time we look at goal setting, we're always going to have to balance, is it short-term and versus long-term? We know we're doing that with our budgetary and financial work. We're looking at what we have to reduce for next year, but we're also tackling the long-term piece when we look at our restructuring committee. Same with accountability versus budget, holding the system accountable while operating under tight physical and fiscal constraints. That's the way we do business, right? And we have to think about that. One of the things that we talk about when we think of just the dollars that we spend on things, we have to consider that. Board depth versus staff time, desire for thorough governance information versus the administrative effort required to generate it, things that we have to think about. And then as we look at the goals and you're creating the goals with your partner today, what is the sense of urgency? What is the feasibility of this goal? And then what is the strategic alignment along the way? So these are just things to think about and consider. But as we're talking with the cabinet team, we can't have them be barriers to creating goals that we know we need to have, but they can be kind of guideposts along the way, guardrails, so to speak. And then the last slide let's get to when we actually have some goals created. So let's go back a few spaces here and sit here, and maybe you and your partner can take a minute and see if there's a space or a place that resonates as something you might be passionate or want to tackle. And then my partner, Julie, will take whatever's left over. Does that sound okay?
Okay, we're ready to tell you ours. Or before that.
go ahead and tell us which area you.
I suggested that we handle the third theme of board growth just because we have differing opinions. And so it'd probably be a good yin yang situation there to sort that out.
Work with you two as well? Okay, which area did you want to focus on? Or do you need another minute?
We're gonna let you and Julie handle the strategic continuity, because I think you're
Perfect.
probably more of an expert on the big six,
That sounds great.
and we'll do one.
Actually, that works perfect because Julie has had some great constructive feedback on the metrics that we're using in some of these core areas. I like it. Okay, so so Tucker and Caroline are working on number one. Awesome. So this is the time where take into consideration the structured accountability for the board targets and the draft goals and the filters to narrow and consider and start brainstorming.
And just for clarity, I like what Colin was saying about
Yeah.
we were gonna kind of dig into the different populations that within the district and how we're serving them. And then you're gonna be a little bit more the higher level data on the district, here's your SBA score.
Yes. Yeah.
As opposed to having us double dip on those data.
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
that's perfect. Perfect. So let's Kim, do you have a timer that here? No, I've got a timer right here. I'm gonna set 15 minutes on my phone here, and then we'll check in. And if you all get unruly before 15 minutes, then I'll know that we need to have an engagement check. Yes, you do. Okay, we're good. All right. Thank you.
We're looking at theme one, the accountability and data, and just kind of clarifying a little bit with you doing theme two. What do we want to focus on? And we really felt like a lot of the achievement data would fall into tracking how you're doing based on the big six. So we wanted to pull that out of our goal area. And so when you look at a lot of data to look at, especially when you're trying to address all the different populations we have in the district, we really wanted to try and capture some things that would speak to all those without making it really hard to find that data. And so one of the things we thought was important is attendance, right? We're not going to reach anyone if they're not there. And so it sounds like attendance is already being included in this building improvement plans. And so if we can report that at the start of the end of the year, where, what are you trying to work on? How are you hoping to change? Is it for a specific population or across the board, just get more butts and chairs? How are you doing? And then how did you do? And so, that cadence of the start of the year, what are your goals? End of the year, how do we do for attendance? And then we also wanted to do growth, and we thought that the WSIF, which is the Washington State Improvement Framework, would be a good way to take a snapshot that touches all the different populations within the district. And again, both of these things can be found on the OSPI report card. So it's very transparent, like community can check in on us. We have access to it. The district will have access to it relatively quickly. There is a lag time, which is unfortunate, but in terms of, I think, overall transparency and overall ease in making sure that we're able to check in on these things regularly, it's kind of important. So you may have written the actual goal. Done. Okay. I've stalled long enough, and Caroline's gonna read this.
I got it. Okay. So I think it's also important to note before I read it that Tucker made the good point of, like, we wanted this goal, but we also wanted to leave the micromanaging aspect out of it, right? So we wanted schools and buildings to be able to do this in the way that made sense for them. And most of them are already building attendance kind of into their SIPs. And so we really wanted it to be very flexible for how it was going to work for them. So we came up with the goal of establish a recurring report of attendance through individual building SIP goals around targeted attendance data delivered twice yearly, beginning and end of school years, by a district representative. So they can, again, do the whole across the gamut attendance. They could do SPED, they could do ELLs, they could do whatever gender, and then they can come present themselves, or they can send it to you and you can present whatever they feel comfortable with. And then a second part of that is annual review of attendance data in April, May, or June, depending on board availability, using WASIF data and growth evaluations. So a couple different pieces there. But I mean, we just want to acknowledge the good work that the schools are already putting in and look at their data as like celebrations of their hard work and their commitment to getting kids to school.
And also highlighting what they're working on. I think it's really, I know they have goals and that they're working on. This is just puts their feet to the fire a little bit more and makes them say it out loud. And then how do we do?
Wonderful. I also really appreciate the relevance that the school improvement plans will now have to the board. They're relevant in the fact that you are all very interested in what the individual buildings are doing to increase, whether it's attendance or academic scores or parent and family engagement. But now it's like, we're going straight to number 4 and we want to see what your goal is. And then we're going to ask you, where you landed at the end of this year. So I appreciate that. And it also will help us. We can potentially look at these plans differently. Like the way that we have done them in the past is we have the plans that are school improvement plans as designated by OSPI. We're on one board packet. Then we had our elementary, middle, and high school. Well, we could have those representatives come and share their attendance and family engagement goal on the night that they're, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's more than just, Yeah, we read it when we read the board packet, but now we're actually tying some of this. So I love it. Yeah, thank you. That's a great idea.
Well, and I think it's important also that like this isn't a gotcha moment, right? Like we're not trying to be like, oh, you failed your attendance goal, but it's like it's an opportunity for them to share what they're doing and all of the effort and hard work they're putting in so that the community can hear it and so that we can display it as like we are working hard for these kids. And regardless of what the data shows, like the work is there. So I think that's good.
And it's evidence-based, it's research-backed. But the thing that I really love is the conversation that we have with everyone is, even in our PLC conversations this morning, it's like there's a continuum, and it's the school board and superintendent with our strategic plan. That informs what our buildings do in their school improvement plans. That informs what teachers do with their student growth goals. And then it's back up again. You know, that whole continuum is part of that process. So this is speaking to that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, nice job. How about you two over there? Maria's frantically writing. I love it. She's got it. Thank you.
Nice. No, we had some really good conversations. And we decided to focus on board growth. Specifically, what we feel board growth would look like early on would be to establish a rapport with our local and state representatives. Mark brought up the WASDA get together that happened here in May, I think. And there were some local representatives here, and hearing conversations from other board and the level of engagement that you have with their local state representatives. There is a relationship there, right? And I think we've been invited to one town or one meeting, and it was a combined meeting with Eastmont, where our local representative. But other than that, we tend to stay within our district, our board. You know, we're a high functioning board within our district, within our community. But I think, we could develop the board more by going outside of our district. Also, we talked about having some be able to actively define our board work session topics, and goes to Tucker's point where like we talked about, like, okay, the impact of AI, using that as an example, what does that mean? Well, I don't know enough about AI and the impact that it has on K-12, right? So I would like to be more informed, and because the topics are set well in advance, it feels like we don't have an input on what we would like a little bit more board development on. And these topics could be topics that eventually could impact policy. They impact student learning, or our staff, that could, taking the cell phone thing. It was a long process. We talked about it. There was a little bit of research. There was book reading. There was a reading. So, I mean, I think AI is a great topic. And I don't know if, like, we talked about, everybody could suggest a topic that they would like to see throughout the year. And maybe we leave a couple blank for upcoming, yeah. And then you can fill in the blanks where there's no topics. Mark, do you want to?
Just addressing timely issues, I think is what we're trying to get to. Like, to Tucker's point of something may come up and we may want to be able to fit that in and not kind of upend the whole schedule. So how can we save some of that time out?
Mhm. One of the things we talked about, it's really hard for some of this to, like, for the topics on the workshops, you can't really provide evidence of progress. But in regards to establishing a rapport with local and state representatives, maybe we start out with once a year. It's a workshop where, we engage with them. Or maybe I know Wenatchee does hill climbs during the legislative session when they're advocating for something, whether it's something that we're supporting with our PSE or WEA, or maybe a broader increase education funding. Is there a couple of us that go with our superintendent, Sean, with our WEA, Wenatchee, president, and we advocate.
Sounds fantastic. I like it. Okay. So let's look at protocol here. I think everybody looked at the governance tensions, like what is the short term versus long term? What does accountability versus budget look like? Board depth versus staff time. So I appreciate you kind of thinking of those things. I heard multiple times talk about what is urgent, what is feasible, and then the strategic alignment. Do we all feel like we are able to keep those filters during our conversation for the most part? Okay, I love it. So let's take a look here. So do we need to do more work? And so this is the commitment to action. Fewer well-tracked goals outperform a long list the board cannot sustain. So I like having 3 as we start this process. But do we need to outline or assign immediate ownership? Do we need to confirm who is a designated owner? Is it the superintendent? Is it one of you? Or is it jointly? What is the rhythm, integration and standing agenda items, add standing dedicated data review items? We may not be able to do that right at this moment. You guys kind of mentioned the end of the year, beginning of the year for the attendance piece, and then when the WSIF data comes out. So that seems to be reasonable. And here is, I think what we're looking at is maybe we need to share out a list of the workshops that we already have kind of planned for this year, and then where are the open spots? That seems kind of reasonable too, and timely being in the next little bit, the next, so I can put that in the Friday update too.
One thing I would ask is, do we want to, I know we have like 15 minutes left. We have the bonds. Do we want to table this and do a touch on the agenda item at some point when you and Julie are able to present? Because I don't want to like assign anything to anyone and then be like,
Yeah.
oh, by the way,
Here's one more goal.
there's one more goal.
Yes. Okay, let's do it.
But yeah, I'd like to hear the bond stuff, and I
Let's
know
do
that
I love it.
I'm sure you and Julie are going to share something. So we'll have
We
a
are.
chance to do it.
Okay, that sounds great. I
Yeah.
really appreciate
Just
that.
one quick comment
Yep.
is maybe we can have something standing after we've decided that whether it's at a workshop or whether it's on our meeting agendas. And that's our check-in point on these 3 goals so that they stay on our minds throughout the year.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm processing really quick. Okay. I'm going to think more about that because we could definitely have that be like once a month at a board meeting. We can just check in. How are we doing on our goals? Okay. Well, let's process that. I like it. Okay. If you want to grab your bond engagement plan for board of directors, and I think that for today, we'll try to just kind of do a high overhead pass. As you look through the document here, you can see that there's a place for you to fill this. I will also share this with you digitally so that you can just have it as it's a Google Doc. So I'll share that this week with you as well. But really what it does is this is a thinking document, and we want it to be a living, breathing document, and we want it to be something that helps kind of outline the next 2.5 months for everyone. So obviously it has the bond information. We have a $275 million ask, November 3rd, construct a new Wenatchee High School, upgrade HVACs at 7 schools district-wide. Talks about the board resolution and the repayment process with property tax levies. Talks about the purpose, and there's a fun note from the PDC, which is also great to have. And there's an actual check later in the document. But the first section, bond engagement ideas bank. And this is really just, this is just ideas. These are ideas that you could participate in as a board member in your official capacity, things that you can participate as a board member in your personal or citizen capacity. So you're welcome to take a look through any of these items. And if there's something that we can do as a board that we need to stand up in a meeting or in a workshop in September or October, we can do that. And then I'll just continue with the overview. Part two is planned events. What are the things that you would like to participate in? And we added a few things that we would like to have you participate in, and then some things where you can make that decision on what else you'd like to do. So the public board meeting bond updates. So you'll participate in any of those that we have along the way, and you have already. So that's been great. But we would love to get all of you to do a facility walkthrough of Wenatchee High School on one of the upcoming public tours, or we could do a special board tour. Diana has got this tour down to a science. In fact, I think we're doing the class of 1975. The class of 1975 has a tour either this week or next. And we did the class of 2006 earlier this summer. Anyway, we'd love to take you on a tour, whether it's one just for the board or if it's one that you want to join on into that we're doing at another time. And then the all staff bond presentation. These are going to be, there's one tomorrow at opening day. So if you're able to join us, that would be great. It's very short and condensed. We're also going to have other options where we have a longer version that will be at service clubs, at every single school, at every single department in our facility, and then anyone that will have us over the next 2.5 months. So whether it's a board of directors for a local agency or organization, or like I said, the service clubs and any of those providers. So we'd love to have, you can join us. We'll give you a list, and it'd be great to have some board members there present. It'd be awesome. And then the part three is simple. These are the key dates in the planning timeline, all the way up to ballots being dropped on October 14th to November 3rd, election day. And then section 4 is seemingly seems like a very important section. It's got 3 pages, but this is the Public Disclosure Commission for board members. And then it kind of gives you that 2-role framework there for board members, what you can do in your official capacity, what you can do in your personal capacity. And I think that that's a great thing to have at our disposal. And then the quick reference is not so quick. It's quite lengthy. And then on the very last page is the board member compliance questions. This is how, and we have this for our school district too. Like, am I using factual, neutral language, not urging voters to approve or reject? Am I only using public resources for information? If I am speaking in my capacity as a board member, am I staying strictly factual? All of those things to give you an indicator on your role in this work. And I think that that's a quick high overhead pass, but you basically have 3 boxes that you can fill in and think about where you want to engage in the next 2.5 months. Simple.
I think the PDC stuff, just, I want to keep our nose clean because the last thing I want to do is to pass it and then still be like, actually, so I think are you wearing your board hat? Are you wearing your personal hat in public? I think we can all kind of suss that out pretty well for ourselves. But I think the board meeting contact was something that I wanted to highlight and maybe just clarify. We've all kind of, we voted to put this bond on the ballot, right? Like we decided that this was the best course of action. So I think saying that we are for the bond makes sense, but I think what it's saying is that you're not allowed to use a public board meeting as a campaign forum to make statements urging a vote on the measure. I think realistically, maybe you can help me understand this if I'm wrong, but like, we can say we support the bond because we wanted to, this is the best course of action that we feel for the district.
Yes.
But we can't say, and here's another, litany or like list of reasons why you have to vote for it, the public.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, that's a great distinction. You definitely, as board members, can be in support of it. I, as a superintendent, am in support of the bond and the bond passing. I'm just not going to be going around advocating and telling people to vote yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good distinction, good clarity, good distinction. And I think sometimes in our conversations is where it can get muddled a little bit there. It gets a little muddy at times, but I think that as long as we're coming back to the facts, and the facts are, and that can be our students at Wenatchee High School have a tendency to breathe wildfire smoke in the building while going to school because of the 1970s HVAC system that we have. That is not a persuasive conversation. That is fact, and we know that. So yeah, and it's but it is important, and our building principals and each of our department directors got one of these as well, and so they are guiding and building their plan for their buildings. They really appreciated the PDC guidance there at just, a keystroke away. I can look at that. And then also standing up to the questions, like, here's what we're planning on doing. Let's go through the questions and see if we are in the right spot. Because one of the things that we know that has been very successful in other bonds that have passed, including Yakima's $180 million bond they just passed in April, door knocking. People want to talk about the bond and they want to learn as much as they can from someone else who is a representative. And so we're looking at how, as a district, we can frame what I think some people think of as a strategy from yesterday. But it's so important that people have that face to face. They want to hear from a trusted messenger and they want to hear the information and the facts. How do we kind of break that down so that each school or each PTSA or each athletic team that wants to participate can have their own section of the city for doing some door knocking? So, and making sure, which hat are we wearing? Okay. And where are we on the PDC spectrum? So that's really important. Yeah. So I don't necessarily, I hadn't thought of like a due date of when this might be due, but maybe what we can do as a board is we could do a report out at one of our board report sessions and say, for my bond engagement, I would like to do these things. Does that sound reasonable?
Is there a list of activities? Like, is there any more fundraisers? Is there, when is fine waiving? I feel like it's kind of all on social media and I have kind of.
You want one-stop shopping?
Yes,
Keep it in
yeah.
one place. Yeah, we can put that together. We have, I think what I would like to give to you as board members is really a comprehensive list of where Diane and I are presenting and where are the opportunities for you to engage. And some of that is available and some of it is still in creation. So the building leaders and department directors have until September 4th to finish theirs, which will also help us understand where our PTSAs and all of the things that are. So, but yes, I will, what we have to put together, I'll get that to all of you because you all need the comprehensive list. I'd love to engage here, or I'm a member of the Lions Club, so I'm going to go here, or whatever that might be. So yeah, we'll get that. It's going to be awesome. 2.5 months of amazingness. Yep. And we're starting tomorrow. Yes. And then rest. Yes, that's good. So what, bond, what do you think about this as a lift? Do you want to, the first meeting in September, maybe we report back on this stuff? Because you would need some information and some details to help you. Okay, let's do it. That sounds good. All right, I think we're almost at time. If board president, I don't have anything else to say except for thank you for engaging in the thoughtful dialogue. Thank you for the time and attention that you put into these goals, and we will continue to tease them out and put them across the filter of, I want to go through this, the filter to narrow and consider. So we'll do that later. So that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
And then do you want to pick one of the meetings in September
Yeah.
to try and go back to our first part of the discussion?
Yes.
Once you've talked with Julie at some point.
Yep, that sounds great.
All right.
I love
Cool.
that.
Well then, meeting adjourned.
All right. Thanks, everyone.